Welcome to Network Africa. I'm Joke Rogers. Coming up on the program, the United Nations is worried that Riek Machar's absence in Juba could jeopardize the South Sudan peace deal. Also, South African students clash with police over rape allegations taken on seriously. And later, the war against illicit poaching goes on, and Kenya will burn 100 tons of ivory at the end of this month. Glad to have you join us. The United Nations and the United States are deeply concerned that South Sudan peace deal may be at risk after rebel leader Riek Machar's failure to return to the capital, Juba. The monitors who brokered the agreement are also wary of the current situation. Mr. Machar is due to take up the post of first vice president in a new unity government on Monday as a key part of the peace-sharing deal. In his defense, Mr. Machar's team says the delay was caused by logistical and administrative issues and that he was planned to return on Wednesday. However, a statement from the government explains that Mr. Machar's return is being delayed due to his desire to come to Juba with an arsenal of weapons. As things stand now, the chairman of the regional monitors want both sides to ensure that the spirit of reconciliation, compromise and dialogue embodied by the agreement is protected. Elsewhere now, Zimbabwe is marking its 36th independence from British colonial rule. However, there's not much to celebrate amidst the growing poverty, high unemployment and infrastructure delay due to prolonged years of economic meltdown. Zimbabweans are feeling the pressure and say that the time has come for the government of President Robert Mugabe to salvage the situation.
Patrick Mazarura and Damore Matombo are filling up potholes on the tarmac road in Zimbabwe's capital, Harare. Both men are unemployed, but are hoping to get paid for this work by well-wishing motorists using the road. On the good day, they collect up to $15, but most times they get nothing. This is the harsh reality of Zimbabwe's high unemployment rate, which economic analysts put at more than 80%. As Zimbabwe marked 36 years since the end of British colonial rule on Monday, Matombo and Mazarura say they hoped for a brighter future for the country and themselves.
For the 36 years of independence, my wish is for industries to reopen so that we can get employment. I make a living filling potholes on the roads in Harare, and that is how I manage to take care of my family. Sometimes I get $5, sometimes $10, or even $15 in a day. It is better than nothing.
Zimbabwe's economy shrank 45% in the decade to 2009 due to plummeting farming output and hyperinflation. It bounced back for 3 years after Zimbabwe dropped its own currency and adopted the dollar. But it has since stagnated as companies have failed to find the cash to grow. An El Nino-triggered drought has also hit the country hard, triggering an appeal for millions in food aid as 4 million people face hunger.
I must say that ZANU-PF has managed to do one thing and one thing alone: empty the independence of its meaning. empty the independence of its significance. Independence is supposed to mean happiness for all. Independence is supposed to mean prosperity for every Zimbabwean. Independence is supposed to mean equality and equity in terms of our freedoms.
Zimbabwe is trying to emerge from years of international isolation, largely blamed on Mugabe's policies, including the seizures of farms from white farmers.
When you're looking at the last 36 years, you're going to definitely find a lot more negatives to our national independence than you find positives. And the negatives have generally been around the national economy plummeting in terms of value and its ability to serve the needs of the people.
Zimbabwe's economy is expected to grow by 1.4% this year, from 1.1% in 2015, and to rise 5.6% in 2017. But donors say improving fiscal discipline and re-engaging the international community should be a major priority.
Well, let's bring you more on the South Sudan issue now. And joining us live is the Voice of America's John Tanza. He's joining us from Juba. Thank you for your time on the program. Now that we're not certain of when Riek Machar will come to Juba, give us a better understanding of how this will affect the power-sharing deal.
Well, the coming of Dr. Riek Machar has been sort of like a big event here. Everybody was expecting him on Monday. He did not show up. On Tuesday, people went to the airport to wait for him. He did not show up. And so there's a little bit of, if you like, a mood of disappointment among the government officials, diplomatic corps, the international community, because for 6 months, the Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission has been negotiating with the former rebels to allow them to come back to Juba, and they set conditions for their return, and those conditions were all met. And now people, the international community is looking at the rebels as if they are making this excuse. They're not serious about implementing the peace agreement. So this is the mood here in Juba.
Can another deal be reached without him, do you think?
Can you repeat the question again? I can't hear you well.
Right. Can another deal be reached without him being present in Juba?
There is no any other deal that should be reached. What is happening now is the stakeholders to the peace agreement, that is the IGAD part, which is made up of the international community, are trying their best to convince former rebel leader Riek Machar to come to Juba. And I was just informed by a reliable source within the diplomatic community that the representatives of the former rebel leader and the government in Juba have been in close door meeting to see how they can resolve the latest stalemate.
Aside from accusations that he's deliberately delaying his arrival because he wanted to come in with an arsenal of weapons, what other reactions are you getting from the government?
Well, there are no other options left for the two parties. The only option that is left there is for them to implement the peace agreement, because they made commitments. In August, they made commitments that they will silence the guns. They made commitments that they can work together and form a government of transitional national unity. And so the international community is holding them to account for what they promised. They promised the people of South Sudan that they're going to end the fighting. But it looks like the guns are silenced, but the political will is not there for the two parties to sit together and form a government.
The Voice of America's John Tanza speaking from Juba. Thank you, John, for your time on the program. When Network Africa returns, South African students clash with police over rape allegations on a university.